Okay, we are live finally.
Hello.
Hello, everyone watching. So we're here to discuss our final books from 2023. Finally, it's been a long time coming, but it's here.
Oopsie.
No, it's okay. So we're here to discuss the Book of Mother for the 20 something book club and then also wordslut for the nonfiction bodies book club. And actually, did I buy both of these books in New York? I think I did. This one I definitely did. This one
Yeah,
I'm not so sure. I think I did, right?
I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So both books I got in New York. Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Book of Mother, maybe?
Yes. Let's do
Yes.
it.
Okay, so spoiler alert, we both really loved these books. So
Yes.
it was a great reading month for us.
I feel like, do you want to have a moment to reflect on our 2023 book club picks, reads, favorites?
I do, but Steph is in the comments, so
Oh,
hi Steph.
hello.
Currently at work. I'm not at
Oh,
work anymore, but I imagine you KCR probably.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But I've been watching Drag Race the whole day. So,
Really?
at work.
Yeah. I was telling you that I'm gonna watch the new season, but I it feels wrong not to watch season 15 first because I still haven't watched that one.
I'm just jumping around. But I'm like, I just finished watching season 10.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, because I've seen a couple seasons, like I think I've seen 6 and 7,
Yeah.
and then a couple like maybe 13, and then so I'm watching the current one, and
Okay.
then going back and
And watching
rewatching,
10.
and
Yeah.
it's so confusing.
Season 10, who is it on? Like, who is on the cast?
Miss
I don't
Vanjie, uh,
Miss Vanjie. Oh my God. She's so messy.
love her. There's the Vixen,
Oh, yeah.
Asia O'Hara,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Monet,
That's a good
Aquaria.
season.
It was a really good season. The girls brought it.
Yeah. Do you know who wins?
Yeah, I just watched it today. So,
Oh, so it's Aquaria, right?
well, yeah, you just spoiled it for all of our fans.
Yeah, but it's season 10. Like, when did that came out? Like,
I
maybe
think so.
2020?
Yeah, they had a lot of like political like stuff talking about it in the show.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably around that wave of the world.
Yeah, probably. Also, Stephanie says, as you should. And I also agree, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now let's reflect on our 2023 books.
Yes, the perfect segue.
In a perfect segue. Do you want to say something about our 2023 picks? They weren't your favorites, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of them were very mid for
Yeah,
me. But then December was a bang.
yeah,
It was a bang.
yeah.
So
I think these two, I actually don't remember the first pick for the nonfiction bodies. Like, which ones were the first few months? I don't remember anymore. But I think these two were probably my two favorites from both book clubs. So, yeah, same. I also really liked Yellowface. I know we had our issues, like both of us, but overall, I still really enjoyed my time with that book.
yeah, I think Yellowface was a wild ride, no matter
Yeah,
what.
it was definitely. I keep thinking about it still, so it definitely left an impression on me. So
My
that's
boss
good.
at work is currently reading Yellowface.
Really?
Yeah, and she started it last week. She's probably done with it now because she finished it, or she reads quickly.
Okay.
But I haven't gotten her thoughts yet.
Okay. You
I'll
need to
report
ask
back.
her. Yeah. But yeah, these are definitely up there with my favorites for like the whole year.
Yeah.
I have to look back at like the books that we read. I don't remember the first ones.
I
Oh, I also really liked Open Water, which was for February.
that was yeah, and then
Yeah.
was January of Woman in Salt, or was that a couple years ago?
I think that was a couple of years ago.
It's hard to know. I think we read People Person this
Yeah,
year.
we also read that one. I think that was April or May.
And then I know There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job. I think that was
Yeah.
probably
April or May. I
Yeah.
think, as again. We also read Yes, Daddy.
June. Oh, that was.
June.
I think.
I also think about that book a lot.
Did you? I know you saw Saltburn because I saw it on your letterbox.
Yes.
I kept thinking of Yes, Daddy.
Really? I
Watching
didn't
that.
think of it, but I get the resemblance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like Saltburn?
I had no idea where it was going the whole time.
Same.
And it was shot so beautifully. Like, girl. So
Also, Jacob Elordi. I can't. Like,
yeah.
I didn't have any sort of crush on him, but then I saw that movie and I was like, he's making some points. I can't deny it.
He seems just like so sweet. Like just little you want to pinch his cheeks.
Yeah.
Among other things. Then we have My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, but that was, and My Government Means to Kill Me, but that was like later on.
Yeah, I think that was maybe August and September. What was January? Like, what the hell?
I will go on into our Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
That's the answer.
I also have it on my laptop. If I find the folder quickly, let me see. But if we don't remember the book, it probably wasn't that great.
That's a big tell.
Yeah. Okay, January. Okay, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
That'll do it. That explains it.
Okay, we also forgot The Romantic Agenda. I like that one.
I really like that too.
I did enjoy it. So.
But that makes sense because that's like not in our. I keep that with my romance, and I always look to like literary contemporary fiction for our books. So
same.
Yeah.
Same. So we went out with a bang. And for the nonfiction baddies, let me see the picks. I don't remember them anymore.
I think most of our picks for the nonfiction baddies were like 5 out of 5 for me. Majority.
Yeah, they were pretty good. So it was Refusing Compulsory Sexuality.
That was great.
Then it was Dog Flowers, which was also great.
Yes.
And then Making Love with the Land, also a great pick.
Amazing.
Then Beautiful Country, What My Bones Know, and now this one. So
wow, a lot of pain and trauma. We have
a lot of really heavy books.
Yeah.
This one, not really, but the rest of them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Wordslut just kind of, it's one of those books that just like makes you depressed to be alive under a patriarchal society, I feel like.
True. But at least like the tone was kind of lighthearted.
Yeah. But we'll get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the Book of Mother. So 5 out of 5 stars, a new favorite. What else?
I'll say that I thought the first section was a little slow. I was kind of nervous because I was like, where is this going? Is it going to pick up? Like this is not a very big book. The first 75 pages took 3 days to get through.
Yeah.
But then once we got into the second part of the book that is about her, or the second chapter, that's like her kind of narrating her mom's life before having kids, hooked me.
I know.
Do we know if this, like, did she just come up with that, or is that like actually how she was raised, or is that just her putting pieces together?
Exactly. That's what I found so fascinating about this book, is that it's never really clear if this is just what I think was my mom's life before me, or it's just really the story of her mother. Because I actually, when I finished the book, I went back to the first part of the book and how it ends. And she kind of says, where does she say? Of course, she had told me the story of her life in great and contradictory detail, but to give oh my God, I can't read. But to give shape to her, I had to imagine her, interpret her. So the fact that she's saying that her mother had told her things that were kind of contradictory, and also that she had to interpret her mother, I feel like it's just her interpretation. But at the same time, it just feels so real.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
I,
that I like that part of the like
I think
ambiguity.
it's so clever
Yeah.
because like reading one of like the I guess biggest purposes or like
Mhm.
the things you can take away from reading is like being able to humanize people, and that's like what reading does for your character, or like what happens to you when you read your characters or different characters. um and the hardest thing is sometimes having to like humanize people in your own life,
Mm-hmm.
like your parents, for example. So I know it's not like a new thought or anything, but like coming up with like the backstory for your parents on like their entire life leading up to like
Mm-hmm.
you being able to remember things happening,
Yeah.
um and then making a writing a book. Oh my god, it was just like mind blown, and I thought it was just so clever.
Yeah.
And also so like sad,
Yeah.
because as a daughter I feel like it's coming from a place of acceptance and
Mm-hmm.
love for her mom. It's like it's almost like the roles are reversing, where she's like accepting, like she's mothering her mom in a way of
Mm-hmm.
being like, I still love you and I'm proud of you, and I'm like gonna hold this space to see your pain in all its nuance and complexity.
Mm-hmm.
um so it's like it makes me so sad to think about like that's what she, it's just a mind fuck, it kind of feels like the whole book.
Yeah. I really wasn't expecting the book to be kind of like split two ways. And it's so weird because in the first part of the book, I was just like, this woman is a terrible mother
Yeah.
and she deserves nothing good in the world. And then the second part of the book just really, like you were saying, it just humanized that character. And I was really feeling for her. And I was like, oh, that's why she's like this. And
Yeah.
and it's just so it really made me like rethink the whole first part of the book. I almost
Yeah.
like this is a short book, so I almost at the end I went back and I reread some parts from the first section and also the ending of that first section. And it kind of makes me want to read the whole first part and with like new eyes on the mother character. What was her name? I don't remember that anymore.
I don't know if they ever. Oh,
It
Catherine.
Catherine, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um yeah, it was just honestly a beautiful book. I love the writing as well.
yeah.
Um obviously I'm reading a translation, so but I like the way that it's translated, I guess. I think the writing is really great. Also, like this is a fiction book, but the main character or like the daughter of Catherine is called
Yeah.
Violaine, like the author. So I kept thinking, like, is this in some way like autobiographical or I don't know.
That's the thing that like I kept thinking about too, because like Violaine is not like a common name, I feel like.
Exactly.
So, and it's also like for an author to use their own name in a in a work of fiction,
Mm-hmm.
that's a choice. So I
Yeah.
was like, it has to be like about her and her life and that meta
Yeah.
ness. But again, it's like never fully confirmed. So I like that it's still ambiguous and it's like
Mm-hmm.
still up to you to interpret.
Yeah.
But I kind
Honestly,
of, I'm kind of the belief that I feel like it is about her own life.
I think it's probably like some things are based on her life,
Yeah.
but as I was reading and I was like reading about this character named Violaine, I was like, did we pick a nonfiction books for the
Yeah.
20 something book club? I kept thinking that, but then I confirmed it, and on the cover it says a novel. So, but yeah, at first, like this reads, if it didn't have the novel in the cover, I would read this as a nonfiction and kind of be like, yeah, sure, it's a nonfiction. And
But let's
yeah.
can we think about let's stay right there for a hot second, girl. Okay. If this is fiction and this is
Hmm.
uh obviously not real,
Yeah.
and then we're using it to humanize the mom, um I just like it's so interesting to me because do we need like trauma, all those years of trauma and pain and like torture in some elements to humanize like someone? And like I know in the first chapter, like there are a lot of not great things and not good things that the mom did that like the kids need a lot of probably therapy to unpack and stuff. Um, but I just think that that element is like interesting to think about and ponder because it's like, well, if you just made that up to humanize your mom and it's not true, are you really humanizing her? Like,
Hmm.
what does it mean to humanize? You know, like
Yeah. It's hard.
isn't it weird
it's
to think? Yeah,
it's really hard to empathize with a terrible person if they did nothing, if nothing happened to them in their life. It's really hard
yeah.
because you have to kind of justify it some way. So, yeah, I don't know.
That's the part of
Hmm.
it that was like I haven't. I feel like my tail is spinning with this book. Because like it just like spent like puts my mind into like circles,
Yeah,
trying to like it think
it's a
about.
fine line between empathizing with her and humanizing her and just accepting that she's a terrible person. And but like all, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I feel like humans aren't like naturally born evil and
Mhm.
want to do harm to others. So I feel like there's always some kind of trauma when someone is a terrible person.
Right.
It's like that thing with like when it's there's a new like serial killer out there and people are like, oh, but he was such a good kid and he had a good education
Hmm.
and his parents loved him. There's probably something else.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
like
all.
the
I think the context in which you live in really reflects on you. So if he had all of those good things, how did he become a murderer? You know,
right. It's
there's
like
probably something else.
it reminds me of like the nature versus nurture debate.
Yeah.
Um, and that's
Also,
interesting.
I
So I
feel
feel
like we've had this conversation. Sorry. I feel like we've had this conversation for another book, and I'm trying to figure out which one, but I don't remember anymore. But yeah, go ahead.
like, I like what you said though about like context being important.
Hmm.
Um, because I feel like in this book, like the context for the mother, if if it whether or not it's real, well, I guess like if it is real, it like it all makes sense. It's like yeah, like
Hmm.
no wonder she kind of struggles as a mom. Like it adds up, but like that argument wouldn't work for or I guess like it never justifies the actions of the person. It just like it adds context, like you said, and I think that's
Hmm.
kind of maybe the goal of humanizing. It's like
Yeah.
you when it's the bigger picture, you can it kind of it doesn't like there's more empathy to see like or there's more room for empathy to see how a person can get from plan A to point A to point B to point C, and like
Hmm.
no
Yeah.
matter what it is, but like I don't know, I feel like that's a slippery slope of logic.
Yeah. Um, but I was saying that I was just thinking now that I was saying that the only way to justify a person being like terrible is with like trauma. But at the same time, like mental health is also a big thing, and sometimes you're just born with some mental health
Yeah.
thing, either like depression or something else. So that's not that's something that you can't, I guess, change about yourself. Yeah,
Right.
the
And
context doesn't matter, I guess, in that situation.
right. And that's a really big part of this book too, is like
Mhm.
the op or it like the main character, for like lack of a better word of like calling her, whether or not she's the author, like learning how to love her mom who suffers and deal like everything she does, like she has
Mhm.
mental illness, like loving someone with mental illness and how hard that can be.
Yeah.
um so I think that was a really good point.
Yeah. um, but just, and that also kind of relates to something that I actually had tapped, which is on page 35. And it's, Mamang wasn't someone you could generalize about easily. The labels or pathologies one might apply to Mamang were not in short supply. Alcoholism, schizophrenia, mythomania, which I honestly don't even know what it is, kleptomania, and by turns, neurasthenia, I don't know, or hysteria. She could become overexcited or crushed. She could eat like a bear or like a bird. She was excessive in everything for the most part. However, these labels were of no use to us. None of them seemed right. None of them were helpful. So that's something that, like, she's obviously saying that her
Hmm.
mother had something else other than trauma, I guess, that was kind of like controlling her. And yeah, but at the same time, she's like, it was either one extreme or the other, so you couldn't really pinpoint to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the line. I think I'm trying to find it, but she was excessive in everything.
Yeah, she could
Um,
become over. Oh no, it's she was excessive in everything. Yeah.
and like the imagery of she could eat like a bear or a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like going back to this author's writing, um, oh, the technique, like the
Yeah.
talent. There's
Yeah.
also a quote on the next page that I really
Oh.
liked.
Yeah.
It's I may have dumb bitch written all over my face, but whore isn't stamped on my ass.
Oh my god. A quote to live by.
It's
I
like her
love
mom was kind of an icon in some places.
it. Also, something else that I wanted to ask you, because I was listening to the audiobook and kind of like reading along, but you were just reading, right? Like
Yes, ma'am.
physically. And was it hard to kind of know when a person was talking and kind of like differentiate like the dialogue? It was a bit hard, right?
I think like when the pace started to pick up, and
Okay.
like in conversations, it was like,
Hmm.
especially when it's like she said this and then she did this, and it's like, wait, is she still is like the she the mom or she the daughter?
Hmm.
That
Okay.
I think I had to reread a couple lines to make sure of that. But never like deterred me. I never really got fed up with the book or anything.
Yeah.
But like
Um,
for you, um, reading it, did you stop like at the chapters or like because the chapters are long?
oh, I don't think so. I read it in a couple, like I listened to the audiobook in a couple sittings.
Oh, cool.
So I was just like fully, because I think it's probably like 5 or 6 chapters
Yeah.
as an audiobook. And also, so I was just stopping in the middle of like the chapters. I honestly don't care.
Okay. Okay. Because I always like I worry about that with audiobooks because I feel like for short books, like I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
worried
feel.
that like if I take too many breaks during the
Hmm.
audiobook, then like it'll just be choppy in my
Hmm.
understanding. But I'm glad you didn't have that.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't. I actually have another quote on the next page. So we're
Oh.
just going to go page by page. It's on 37. And I actually didn't tap this, I didn't dog ear the page, but it says she had opened a hole in her daughter's heart by giving birth to her and had left it gaping. Faced with her mother, Maman was an abandoned child all over again, choking up at the very sight of her. And this kind of all like ties together in the second part of the book because we understand the relationship that her, like the mother Catherine had with her mother. And like just the first part, she had opened a hole in her daughter's heart by giving birth to her. It's so sad. It's such a depressing image, honestly.
Yeah, it I feel like this author could really write a good literary horror novel, because
Yeah.
that line reminds me of to build your house around my body, or build your house around my
Oh,
body,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that one line about corking herself with a tampon.
Yeah. I didn't remember that anymore, but yeah.
I think about it at least once a day. I really do.
Working herself with a tampon.
Yeah. Ugh, I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, that's a hard one to digest.
Yeah. But like that's like the kind of imagery
Yeah.
like I imagine when like she has such descriptive sentences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have another quote? I have one on 63, so it's a little bit further.
Um yeah, my quotes, I think I have one. Why don't you go?
Yeah. Mine, like this one, I felt it deep, which was for Maman, every
Oh,
defeat took on epic proportions. Any particular failure opened onto that giant failure that was in her mind, her life. And I it just felt that because honestly, when I'm really anxious, like anything I do wrong is just like the worst thing that ever's happened in my life.
yeah.
So
It's just like
I,
one more thing.
yeah, just one more thing. I really like to see it at everything as a catastrophe. So I really felt that. But I never go that far as thinking opened onto that giant failure that was her life. Like whew, that's hard.
Yeah. But I also could see like um why it's so easy for her to think like that.
Hmm.
Since so much of her life was out of her control, and like it's easy to place blame on yourself to feel like you have that, like you can't control what happened to you, but at least you can control your reaction to it by punishing yourself
Hmm.
for it.
Yeah.
um I feel like a lot of people do that.
Yeah. True.
I liked how on the next page on 68, um she said she lay claim to her Jewish heritage but had no sympathy for Israel.
Oh God, yes.
I was like, go on. Like, okay, icon.
Go off.
It was like even the mentally ill,
I know,
there's
right?
issues,
It's
but
so
like
easy.
genocide, not one of like it's not a gray one.
Ugh.
Um, so, um, it's just nice to like hold, or it's nice to see that and see like a line of accountability
Mhm. Yeah.
for some authors, um, and almost like a need to say that, as opposed to tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow. That was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Like that in the context of today, I don't know how people are still like reading it and just not like seeing the signs, the flags,
yeah.
the red flags. But anyway.
I have a quote though on 76.
Oh, yeah.
But if there are two things in this world that one can safely say are imperfect, that inevitably fall short, they are love and language. Words besmirched by centuries of misuse, worn out by cliches, arbitrary, are always traitors. And what can one say of love, that eternal, inconstant, relentless in its deceit of her?
Damn.
Yeah.
I would never think of like language as imperfect, but I see her point. Worn out by cliches, misuse, like yeah.
I think having read Wordslut, so
Mm-hmm. It
like
kind of relates back. Yeah.
yeah, like language kind of becomes like this vibrant, lively thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to think of language as being something that can fail you,
Yeah.
um, like I think those concepts are so related
Mm-hmm.
and can apply here, especially in how we use language and how language has been thrown at her whole life. And
Mm-hmm.
also like the elements of classism in here too, where she feels like she's always being talked down to, and she's falling in love with like men who are classist and also like significantly like higher in their social class than her,
Mm-hmm.
and weaponizing that.
Yeah.
Um, and Amanda Montell talked about like that people often like use someone's grammar as a sign of like lower intelligence
Mm-hmm.
if you have like imperfect grammar, quote unquote. Um, so it's all coming back together.
Yeah. True.
And,
True.
but like that was like the whole concept of like being stupid if you have bad grammar. Um, that's definitely something that like she thought of herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially because she was dating like scholars.
Yeah,
Like the father of the two girls was like, I wouldn't say a professor, but he was like just like scholarly, right?
I don't know.
I don't know what he was. He was just like rich and
And a
and
snob.
what? Sorry.
He was just rich and a snob.
Yeah, basically. But he honestly had no job,
Yeah.
right?
But he
He
just
was
had
also
money.
older, so like anyway.
Yeah. The last quote that I really liked was on 210.
Mm-hmm.
I was certain at least that my sobs would never cease, that I would that I would remain attached to her in grief, no matter where I traveled. Grief would never leave me.
Oof.
Yeah,
That's the last page, yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's like it doesn't like I like how or I appreciate I guess how like the complexity of her relationship, how like there's so much trauma and pain with her memories of her mom, but she like I don't know
Is
this
still gonna live on with the memory of her. Yeah.
yeah. And I liked that the ending was not like a clean cut or like a bow tie or by any means.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like especially with that line, it's like this emotion's gonna live on in infinity for as long as I live. So it was just like there was no conclusion. It was just like okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she died, and I just have to accept it and accept that she was this way because of her history. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And things can be black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going through like I have a lot of things underlined. Um, but I didn't dog ear the pages, so I'm just like looking for the things that I underlined. Oh, I have one on 171. And this one is really big. I just went all out. I actually don't remember fully the part of the story that this is in, but It's Catherine goes into a rage. I don't know how you say this word.
Yeah.
Medea is not insane. She's been ridiculed, humiliated, betrayed. She's a queen, yet she's being dragged through the mud. Medea is not insane. No, she avenges herself by destroying that which is most dear to her. Her life alone can measure up to the enormity of the betrayal. Her own life is not enough. It's bigger than she is. She has to take on all of humanity in all its rottenness, and in particular the vileness of men, because men are vile, abject pigs who only think with their dicks. Filthy swine, all of them, and she knows something about that. She's the daughter of one of those bastards. Medea is not insane. She's that marvel who warns of the will of the gods, and the gods not always, but nevertheless, once in a while, the gods show up to put their foot down, to say, frankly, that's a bit much. We won't have it. It's all wrong. Really, all wrong. Catherine could kill them kill them all if only she had taken Antoine's revolver with her in the suitcases, but lacking a weapon, she begins by setting fire to the dance school. This is kind of like the I think it's the last straw for her, and it's just like her going into insanity. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that this is narrated, and also her parallel between her and Medea. I actually don't remember the like Medea's I guess story,
Is she
but
a god, I think?
she is a Greek god, but I don't remember
Yeah.
her like story, I guess. And that was something that I didn't have this page, but I should have, because I wanted to go back and like read about Medea, and kind of like there are definitely some parallels between her story and Catherine. It's probably why it's here. So I wanted to go back, but I actually didn't go back and read it. Um, but yeah, I just love that I think this whole part is just so effective in showing how she was wronged by all the men in her life, and she's just like, I'm done. Like I can't have anything anymore. Like I'm just gonna go into insanity. I'm gonna set fire to the school, and I'm gonna show you all my rage. And I actually have another quote. I think it's the next page. They haven't yet felt the full force of Catherine's anger. She's not just furious; she's become a fury.
Mm.
And yeah, I I I love how she's just like insane. She's just went into insanity, rightfully so, because like she was really mistreated, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, like,
and
I
I
feel
also
like,
like that she ends up with a guy that actually likes her.
yeah,
Um, he actually, I felt like we didn't know a lot about their story and all of that, but from the whole like funeral scene and everything at the end, it felt like he really cared about her, even though he was like younger, I think. But at least she got that in the end.
yeah, it's like the end of her life was um kind of, it seemed like a lot happier of a time for her, like where
Mhm.
she could travel, she could learn at her own pace whatever
Yeah,
she was interested in, fall in love. And it's like, imagine that when you aren't responsible for two living beings and
yeah,
have a deadbeat husband, like
mhm,
you can be free and
yeah,
happy.
true.
But I really like that line about Medea, because like the way she wrote it, it's like you said, like I get why she turned into a fury. I get
Mhm.
like I like, how could you not, after surviving all that she survived?
Yeah,
And I think that's an interesting concept to think about when we were talking before about like, is this real or not? Or is this like autobiographical about her mom? Did this actually happen? And like trying to humanize your mother, and like in this section, this part of her mom's arc is kind of like her where her heroicism comes in. She turns
mhm,
into like a monster and says like enough is enough, and then she almost gets like the good side of the character arc.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting too, like as to whether or not that actually happened. And if she just wrote that because she wanted to see her mom in some capacity, like conquer or like thrive or get past that point, you know?
Yeah. Kind of take control of her story.
Yeah. Or, you know, not be like constantly abused by it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, maybe change like, change the script a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was, yeah.
A really interesting book.
Highly recommend. And
Highly recommend you.
hats off to the translator because that was translated beautifully.
Yeah.
Wish I could read it in its original language.
Yeah.
But
maybe one day I will.
yeah, hats off to you.
I don't know. It's probably like really hard to read. Well, actually, with like the English translation next to it, maybe I could like understand some parts. Also, I love this cover. Like, I don't know what the original cover is, but probably not as pretty. I can tell you that.
This is very Aquaria, actually.
Yeah. You're just like RuPaul Drag Race references
everywhere. Yeah.
It's just consuming you. I get it. Like, honestly, I was keeping up with all of the seasons, but then I don't know what happened. Like, season 15, I wasn't watching it every week as it was coming out. And then I just lost track of it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to do that. But now I'm like, I feel like there's so much lore that I need to get back into.
Yeah. No, but like I don't know, 6 months, there's a new season.
And there's so many. There's
I know.
There's UK. There's one in Canada I saw. Like,
yeah. I've never seen Canada, but I saw the first, I think, 2 seasons of UK.
Oh God.
And All Stars, I think I have still the last season to watch. Yeah. It's a lot.
It's so much. It's like
RuPaul never sleeps.
It never sleeps. It's like the equivalent to like gay Marvel or something.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Again, another perfect segue. You're welcome, everyone.
Yes.
Wordslut.
Wordslut, a feminist guide to taking back the English language. What a book. Have you read? I only realized that the other book that I read was by this author. Have you read Cultish?
Yes.
Okay. I also did, but I preferred this one a lot more.
Yeah, I think she did a lot more with this.
She studied linguistics, so it's like it's her field, you know.
Right.
So it makes sense. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. There were so many things that I just keep thinking about in my everyday life, especially like the thing that I think about at least like once a week is the fact that when I think I tapped that page, I don't know where it is again, but it's when someone talks about someone, that someone that you picture in your head is always a man.
Oh.
Like the standard you always think of is a man. And I'm always thinking about that now because like when someone is like, oh, a friend of mine, I'm like, that friend could be a girl or a boy or anything else. Like, why am I only thinking of guys? Like, what actual fuck? Like, my mind fucked.
What I thought you were gonna say is the thing that like I've been thinking about constantly, and it's that like all insults are only relevant to the person who's saying or speaking the insult because it's from their perspective. So like if I call you like I think you know what I mean. But
don't call me anything.
Yeah.
Not on my channel.
Yeah, I'm just a guest. But I just thought that was so smart because it's like to me that was like such a way of like taking all the power out of being insulted because it's like well, yeah, that's just like as powerful as you give that person's words. So it's all again in your control. And it says a lot more about the person and how they're feeling than it does actually about the person that they're speaking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, that's such a like I get it's a simple idea, but it blew my mind.
No, it is. But like this book was literally that. It was just like simple things that you never thought about, but that are in our everyday lives. And it's just like, why did I never think of this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, so interesting. There were so many things that I was just like mind blown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was really sad and like disheartening was like how majority of the time when people use like woman or female in a sentence, it's more normally than not like associated in terms of an insult or a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was it's like the misogyny is just so rampant.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, and like I liked seeing it in words, like why when people, like when men specifically use female in a sentence, like why, like our alarm bells go off and like people don't really know why, but we're like, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the words to explain it yet.
Yeah. And even with when she talked about like gay men
Mm,
being associated with femininity and how that's like
yeah,
perceived as like them being weaker and just like less than.
yeah,
And it's just the fact that they're associated with being like feminine, talking in a feminine way. And it's just like, what did we do?
yeah. No, I'm actually reading a really interesting memoir right now that
Really?
talks about that exact thing. Um, it's called Punch Me Up to the Gods.
Oh, I've had that saved on script multiple times, but I then never
Yeah,
got around to listening.
you should listen.
Punch me
Um,
to the gods. Okay. I'll save that one.
and he talks about like uh, growing up in Ohio in the 80s as like a young queer black man.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically like as a kid when he was growing up, um, like it like he was talking about in one of the chapters, like one of his friends would be like, okay, like black boys, we're the tough ones, we're the real ones, like we're the manly ones. The white boys are sissies. Like you don't want to be like you don't want to associate yourself with white people because they're sissies. And like if you have white friends, then you're gonna look like a sissy. And if you hang out with black girls, then you're gonna look weak too. And if you like all these things, like the different elements to like
Mm-hmm.
manliness and manhood in like his culture, um, and like that part that she started getting into and like how it affects subcultures,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't just like him being too girly, it also was like him acting too gay, even though
Mm-hmm.
like nothing he had done yet at this age was like sexual,
Yeah.
or like him acting as a gay man. He hadn't like really thought much. He knew he was different, but like in his mind he was still trying to hide his gayness. So he was like,
Yeah.
what am I like, what is gay about what I'm doing right now? Like he was like, tell me please. So that made me think of that.
Mm-hmm. And
But yeah,
even like insults. I don't remember if she talks about that here or if I read that somewhere else. It's probably here. But like even with insults, it's always like you're a pussy.
mm,
And I don't know what else, but like when someone like is like brave, it's like, oh, you got balls.
yeah,
What the actual fuck? Why are we perpetuating this idea like that we're weak, like women are weak and men are like brave and strong? It's just like it's so ingrained in the culture at this point that it's so hard to just like do
yeah.
something about it. It's
And
really hard.
even like she was talking about it in a lot of languages. I don't know if Portuguese was one of them, but like how there were like some words that are like feminine, neuter, and
Yeah.
male.
Yeah, all words in Portuguese are like have a specific gender, which
Yeah,
is stupid. It's like French. French is the same way. I think Spanish as well. It's all Roman languages. So
German is like that too, I can add.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is weird because that's not like a Romance language, but
German.
okay. Fair. But yeah, all words in Portuguese have a specific gender.
Yeah.
So
So,
like phone is masculine. Like why?
but
Book
skirt.
book is masculine as well. Let me see a feminine words.
Skirt, dress,
Yeah,
answer.
but also table. Like table is a feminine word.
That is weird.
That is weird.
Um,
It's just so weird. It's so like
one of the lines that
right.
like we can talk about, where is it? It reminded me of one of my college classes that I took when we were talking about it was a modern history class of Germany.
Mhm.
And we were talking about like the motherland and versus like the fatherland. Because I think Russia was known as the fatherland or something, and Germany was known as the motherland, like during a certain time period. And we were just kind of like, one of the questions I asked in the class was like, what is the difference between like a motherland and a fatherland in that like gendered language? Like, what do they mean when they refer to something as being the motherland versus the fatherland?
Yeah, I guess I'm guessing that the fatherland is like above the motherland. It's like in
Yeah,
terms of like power.
yeah, but to put it in words for me, like Russia or Germany, please. Like, what is the difference here? And she says, and this is kind of like one of my criticisms for this book, and we can get into that.
Mm-hmm.
She quotes, according to Romaine, this is 151, by the way.
Oh, okay.
She quotes, according
Yeah.
to Romaine, by comparing her to things like storms and seas, woman is symbolic of the conflict between nature and civilization, tempting men with her beauty, attracting men with her charms, but dangerous and therefore in need of conquest. Woman is a continent to colonize, a fortress to siege. These sentiments are not only are reflected not only in English and languages all over the world, from Italian to Thai. A nation's government is labeled as having founding fathers, while the land itself is Mother Nature, virgin territory, is perceived as a feminine entity. In grammar, as in allegory, as in life, women are considered reckless places outside the civilized male world, wild things meant to be tamed into the weak, delicate flowers we've traditionally wanted women to be.
I have that page tab by the way. Again. But I actually have the part before that. So it's as if calling these things she, they're elevated to human status. They couldn't quite see it, that it simultaneously downgrades women to the status of toys and property. In practice, what these metaphors of women as nature, and then it just goes back to that what you were saying.
Yeah, that part like really gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. Why?
Like, you haven't seen that Mary Kate and Ashley movie?
No.
Well, so it was like from the like early 2000s or 1990s.
Wait, what is it called?
Heebie-jeebies. It's like the creeps. It gives me like goosebumps. Like it creeps me
Oh,
out.
okay. Heebie jeebies. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so just thinking about like all the men who call their car she or like boats she. And like I've done it too. Like my car was a she, has been a she, has always been a she.
Yes, but that's because she's a girly. Like
Yeah, and she's
she's
a
part of
queen.
the girlies. Yes.
But it's interesting, like where that comes from and how like why we call certain things she, like a boat or the ocean or Mother Nature versus he, like the default person we think of. Oh, actually,
Are you okay?
goodbye. It made me think a lot about this book. Have you read this? Invisible?
No, I haven't, but I want to.
Yeah. You should, because like these go really like hand in hand with each other. And this book talks about how like car crash testing sites are always done with like male bodies, like male modeled bodies, and like the average height of men. And so then like they don't have data for like what a car crash would like, or like a simulated car crash would be like for the average woman, because like
I would die basically.
yeah, the male is the default. So there's like a whole like there's so much gap in data and how like basic things affect women and anyone who isn't a man. So that's why I got up and got this.
Yeah, I need to read that one.
Yeah, it's really good. It's another I would say that one is more frustrating than wordslut.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just like it hits you over the head with like all of like,
yeah, because I guess this one is things that we can actively like be conscious about, because it's language, so we use it and we can also educate the people around us. But like with what you were saying with the car test, like I can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
like what am I going to do? Call the car companies?
It also talks about like how cities are like designed and how it doesn't make any sense for like a lot of like caregivers who are usually mothers. So again, not something we can do about that.
Yeah.
But one of the things I also really liked about this book was that like she gave a lot of like tips, I guess, to like using more inclusive language, or like language that isn't stemming from misogyny.
Yeah.
And like that one person who like called her out for using y'all, and
what the hell?
Yeah, which is like funny because like I don't know how would you address like how you would address like a group of people
yeah,
in Portuguese, like because that is kind of a thing here in English, whereas like you don't have that word for, I mean you have y'all to address y'all to address a diverse group.
Yeah.
But it is like kind of stigmatized, where it's like, you're not from Tennessee, like don't where are you getting that from?
Yeah, like even me like writing in English, I remember a lot of times where I wanted to make a tweet like saying, hey y'all, but same thing, I'm not gonna use y'all because I'm not even American, and it's just I would always refrain from using that, and I would just use everyone, hello everyone. But yeah, sometimes it's kind of sounded better and it came out like easier with y'all, but I would just like try not to use it.
Yeah, because it's so like not in our normal language.
Yeah. I had a part that I wanted to highlight. Which one is it? Oh, it's just like silly little things that I never thought about, which is when she's talking about the word slut, which is on page 29. And she's saying, I think, however, I think we can all agree that this word is a much sillier in connotation. Plus, if slut with no modifier is a default female term, then manslut surely stands to imply that promiscuity is only contemptible when women do it. And it's all like there are so many different words that we have to put man in front of to like justify, like a man purse. She always also talks about that further like down. It's like, why? I like reading this book, I was just like, why do we do this? It's so like we really want to put women down, and
in every way. Yeah.
And that like even with like hobbies, I don't know if she talks about that in this book, but like even like when girls have hobbies, it's always like looked down upon, but when men have hobbies, it's like great, amazing. It's so exhausting, so exhausting. And then she also talks about something similar. It's on page 88, and She's saying locker room banter is just a manlier sounding synonym for gossip. It's the act of talking about someone who's not in the room with the intention of establishing camaraderie and
Yeah.
in group norms. And it's just the same thing. Like, why do we have different terms for when women do it? It's like wrong. But when
Yeah.
men do it, it's like that Taylor Swift speech. Honestly, she made some points there where she's like, "Oh, when a woman does it, it's like calculated, and
Yeah.
when a man
We're
does it, it's
strategic.
exactly."
I know the lore. Yeah.
I know, and yeah, it's just the Man by Taylor Swift starts playing
Anytime.
anytime.
She really ended misogyny with that one.
She did. Honestly,
Yeah.
I love that song. Also, I'm so excited to see her live. Like the dates just keep approaching, and I'm just so excited.
That's really crazy.
I know. I'm so looking forward to it. Anyway.
One thing that she mentioned that I thought was really, oh, wait. One of the quotes on 166
Mhm.
that I really liked that kind of relates to what you were saying about locker room talk and how it's basically just gossip, but okay for men. Um, is what rubs people the wrong way about political correctness is not that they can't use certain words anymore, it's that political neutrality is no longer an option.
Wait, where is that? Oh, okay, I found it. Yeah. Um. Yeah.
It's like your words like now can like very succinctly and clearly say like what your beliefs are,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't like that
Yeah.
because now like people are paying attention to language. Like I know a popular one that I always bring up is like when it comes to like immigration and you call
Mm-hmm.
like the people like immigrants coming in aliens, that immediately like dehumanizes them and others them.
Mm-hmm.
And certain politicians and fascists will use that to their advantage.
Really?
Yeah. Like anytime you hear Trump make a speech and talk about immigrants, he always talks about illegal aliens. Yeah, as if like a human person could be legal or not legal. So it's like the little trappings of language that like are so important to pick up on. Um, so it's like if you use that verbiage and you get clocked for it, that's what people have a problem with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
I
people
also,
all want us to speak in the same way.
yeah.
Like even when you're like using the pronoun damn, them, and they for someone. Like some people, it just rubs them the wrong way because they're not talking like that person is.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like, it's frustrating. Just like adapt and I don't know. Don't make such a big fuss. It's just words.
Yeah.
It's literally just words. And words have meaning. For a lot of people. And also, I think I have someone in that same chapter. Also, I didn't really pay attention to the chapters in
Okay.
in the sense that like I almost didn't really like after a chapter I wasn't like what was the theme of this chapter? I felt like the whole like book progressed really well and just like if it didn't have chapters it would work really well still.
Yeah.
Because she was like mentioning a lot of ideas in multiple chapters. So, yeah,
Yeah. And they would like build off of each other.
yeah. Um, oh, it's on page 161, and she's talking about a friend of hers who is a first generation American. Um, once told me that when she was growing up, her Japanese father made her put $1 in a jar every time she used a slang word. He thought it made me sound low class, she said. He was an immigrant. For folks like my friend's dad, speaking proper English is the way to the big house with the white picket fence. It's the idea that if you want to be a CEO, you have to sound like one. And I thought that was so interesting because I feel like it probably also happens here in Portugal as well, because obviously we have a lot of immigrants from Africa because Portugal used to have a lot of colonies there. So we have a lot of immigrants. Like even like my neighbors are all immigrants, and I hear them talking in Creole, which is like their African language. And I feel like, and like I had like black um, colleagues in school, and they would never talk in Creole, even if they were with their families at school, you know. But I feel like they went to their houses and they spoke in Creole.
Hmm.
But it's like to assimilate in a white environment, they would have to speak like normal Portuguese. And it's so sad that a lot of like people still have this idea, and I feel like it's really hard to get out of
Yeah.
this idea that you have to speak the proper language to. Is Bailey there?
Oh, she's been here the whole time.
Oh, I can't see her because your name is on top of her.
No, she's been hiding behind
Oh,
this thing.
oh, silly girl, you're hiding from me.
She's
Oh,
just
so
she's just sleeping.
cute. She's like with the paw like this.
Yeah, she's so comfy right now. Say hi, Betty.
Hi, Bailey. Oh, cutie.
This is her nap time.
She's so comfortable. I
Yeah,
wish I was that comfortable.
she's in a haze right now. I'll put the pillow back for you. She had her head underneath this before.
Oh,
Um,
cute.
but that just reminded me of like of again like the association like of like not of speaking another language and like or not proper speaking improper English and being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Um when and like and how that doesn't make sense because like knowing multiple languages is actually such a sign
I
of
know.
intelligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like your brain is probably a lot more developed than someone who only knows one language.
Yeah. It's like
Because
I
you
was
have
just
to like
so shocked.
adapt and like,
Yeah.
whoa,
You
I'm
have to
doing it right now.
yeah, you have to think a thought and then translate it.
Yeah.
Or like your brain is already used to thinking thoughts in another language, which is wild.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like it's another one of those like arguments that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And even with like even if we're not talking about other languages, but like the thought of, it's the idea if you want to be a CEO, you have to sound like one. And it's like,
Mm.
I feel like that idea is being a little bit like challenged nowadays because there are a lot of CEOs of companies that are like young and that don't talk in like proper like business
Yeah.
um, language, I guess. Um, so that's being a little bit challenged, but like the rest of it is just still so ingrained in the culture that like it's so hard. Like even for me, sometimes I admit it, I catch myself being like, oh, they're probably not as educated as I am
Mm.
because they're talking in this way with like a funny accent or something. And it's just like it doesn't make sense. But I it's hard to undo all of these things.
We have been conditioned. Yeah. It's like you have to be an active like listener and
Yeah.
your own thoughts
Yeah, like
catch you.
battling with myself.
Yeah.
Being like, no, that's wrong. Like you don't know. Like
Yeah.
stop.
That's
It's
just an
yeah.
assumption, you know, like
Yeah.
um yeah. Can I tell you where I thought this book's shortcomings were?
Yes, you can, but I'm probably guessing that it's like in terms of diversity, in terms of like trans people, because I feel like that was really just like surface level.
It close. More so with like the use of like AAVE
Oh
and
yeah, that's also only like a page.
baby she gave a little sub note. Like what are the footnotes?
What?
She
Really?
she had a footnote for talking about AAVE and like also how like how a lot of like slang terms come from AAVE and like
Yeah.
queer culture, Black queer culture. That was in like a footnote, and I was like, this is wild to me that you're only going to put that in as a footnote.
What?
But
I thought it was at least a page.
she had a footnote, and then later on she had a larger page talking about it, like
Mm-hmm.
in the a chapter in the end of the book, towards the end.
Do you have the page?
I'm trying to. I know I tabbed it. Oh, okay. So she
There's
mentions. It looks like she mentions AAVE on for the first time on page 40.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. It just seems like if I like, and I don't necessarily like. I mean, I would like to see more, but I don't necessarily blame her for it because like my guess is like AAVE is not her area of
Mm-hmm.
specialty or area of knowledge. I just would like to see this kind of topic from more in like a decolonized sense,
Mm-hmm.
or talking about like decolonizing your language. Because one thing I kept thinking about was something I read about recently. Like, have you heard the term like master bedroom? Um,
Yeah.
and like when people talk about their houses, well, that
Yeah.
comes from slave plantations.
It makes so much sense.
Yes. So now to get around that, people like realtors are using primary bedroom, secondary bedroom, blah blah blah.
Oh,
So I feel like there's just so many more things she could
master.
have brought up. Um, that like, I mean, it's not just misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, I mean, this book probably would have been like 3 times as long, but if it had been like a feminist guide to taking back or feminist guide to like decolonizing the English language, like that would have
Yeah.
been what that's what I want to see. My other
Mm-hmm.
criticism is like I feel like a lot of her writing is just like summarizing other people's writing and quotes and putting it
Mm-hmm.
together. And I like
Really?
I feel like I like it because that makes it accessible to
Mm-hmm.
people, and like you're just kind of reiterating things that you've read from a lot of different books and putting it in one place, and that is
Yeah.
a skill. But I just wish she didn't use like such a millennial tone. Like it just takes some of the jokes
Yeah.
she made takes me out, and I'm like, just talk like you're in like a mildly academic paper.
Yeah. I get that. But honestly, I listened to the audiobook of this as well. The same thing as with the Book of Mother. I was like listening to the audiobook and reading it. And I don't know if it was the way that the was it her narrating? Now I'm just thinking if it was her. But like the narration was really good and the jokes actually landed for me.
Okay.
Most of them because of the narration of
Yeah.
the audiobook. But I do understand your criticism. It
Yeah.
just sometimes it would take you like she's talking about like something super serious and then like a joke at the end is like
It's like a
so
corny
serious.
dad joke.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of funny, but other times it's like, just, you don't, like, is the editor putting a gun to your head right now? Like,
Yeah, exactly. No, I get your point. And I was actually trying to search if there's any book on like decolonizing
oh, yeah.
language. And I feel like there is, but I'm not finding it right now. So I need to deep search this. But I feel like there's a book on that, probably.
Yeah, I probably already own it and it's just in my shelves. It's somewhere in the
Yes,
stacks.
somewhere.
Yeah. Um, but yeah,
Um,
I thought
but
this was
yeah,
like, I think this is like a good starting off, like a really great starting off place.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I feel like this book is very digestible, and I could recommend this to anyone I know.
Yeah.
And that's what I also liked about the book is that it's very approachable with like linguistics because like I would never pick up like a scholarly book on
Yeah.
linguistics, but this one I found very like approachable. Um, but yeah, I do understand your criticisms on it. And now I'm like, my mind is blown because master bedroom was just not something that I ever thought about. Where did you read that?
It might have been TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get a lot from TikTok.
Amazing.
My For You page is it's like a good mix of informative and entertaining and also books.
Mhm.
So
Great.
there's a lot of like niche things coming up at me all at once.
Yeah, it's not going to like weird sides of TikTok.
It does. It tries to. It tries to take me there, and then I'm like, no, take me back to I don't know, somewhere else.
But like, if you get a lot of books recommended on TikTok, don't you like always get the same books? Because I feel like maybe this is wrong for me to say, but I feel like the TikTok girlies all read the same books.
I hate to be like this person, but I think just by like doing the work a little bit
Hmm.
and looking for like diverse TikTokers, I actually get a lot of books recommended or in my For You page that I haven't heard about.
Hmm.
Like a
Okay, great.
lot. So I can send you some of my favorite like book talkers.
Yes, you can. I don't have TikTok, but I'll definitely look at it.
Okay,
You
yeah.
knew that I didn't have TikTok.
I know. I forget. I forget that's the way
I've
you choose to live
never
your
had
life.
TikTok, and I probably never will, honestly.
You know, it's hard to hear that. I'm gonna really have to try and accept the lifestyle you are choosing for yourself. I just don't understand
A
it that
simple life.
my Bible tells me that people should have TikTok.
But yeah, I feel like most people, like, we're completely going off topic, but I feel like most people don't do that work to like kind of go to creators that actually give out original recommendations,
Yeah.
because I feel like the norm is just like romance books by Colleen Hoover and Emily Henry and The Fourth Wing. Oh my
Sally
God,
Rooney is really up there.
Sally Rooney.
Um,
So I feel like that's probably like 80% of book talk, and then the other 20% is just like actually good recommendations. And
yeah.
people like stick to the 80% and they're just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I found a lot of like literary fiction readers.
Really?
I also have like this one TikToker. His name is like the schizophrenic reads, and he has schizophrenia, so he talks about
Okay.
that on his channel. Yeah, it's not just like him making fun of it, but he recommends like the most interesting nonfiction, and that's where
Oh,
actually some of our picks for next year, like Brutalities. That's where I heard of it from.
amazing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of gems out there. A lot of
Great.
yeah. Don't let TikTok take your hope away. There are a lot of people who are like only talk about Sarah J. Maas, which like every time I swear like I see someone reading Sarah J. Maas and making a TikTok about it, like
In the year of our Lord 2024, like, how are you still?
like honey, move
One
on.
thing, what? Sorry?
I said honey, move on. Like
Yeah, like, one thing is just like rereads if you really like her series, okay, fair. But like reading it for the first time with so many books out there, like so many books, and you're choosing, like, even with Colleen Hoover, I feel that, but like that's a whole other topic.
it really is. It's a shame because I
Have
feel
you ever read anything by her?
yeah, actually I read one book by her. I mean I read like no I read some books when I was in like fourth grade. Um, and I like I liked it at the time, but I was 9.
Yeah,
And
fair.
I read a couple years ago Reminders of the Hymn, and I
Oh,
actually gave it 5 stars.
hello. Do
Sorry.
did you like it?
Yeah,
You did. Clearly, you did.
I did. I thought like for what it was. I mean, I
Yeah.
think my biggest issue with Colleen Hoover is that like her books are being mismarketed to like younger people, like people
Mm,
who are like where it's not age appropriate. Like I don't have
mhm.
anything against like like let's say 16 and plus reading, but it's like it depends on the person
Yeah.
and the child in that circumstance. But like when I was 16, I probably could have been reading Colleen Hoover.
Oh, same.
But
Same.
yeah, but like I don't want my 9-year-old self reading any like remind like what I read, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like she does romanticize a lot of
A
bad
lot of
things that you
yeah.
don't really want to think of as normal at
Yeah.
that age. But like when you're 18, you can decide for yourself what you want to think.
Yeah. 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 That's exactly it. I see like really young girls reading her books, and it's like, what are we teaching them?
Yeah, like honey, like YA is so good.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. Ah.
you don't need
Oh,
a
also another book that was really good from our book club was TJ Power. I also really like that one.
yeah, and you know, actually, I watched Books and Lala. She did like her first TBR of 2024, and
Mm-hmm.
she pulled that
Oh
for yeah. So she's gonna be reading it in like this
my
quarter.
god,
Yeah,
yes. I actually haven't seen that video, so that's why I
spoiler.
didn't. But yeah, spoiler.
Sorry.
But great for her. I hope she likes it.
I know if she hates it, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, I already left book two. What else can I do now?
Yeah. Um, but anyway, anything else about wordslut? Because we're going off topic.
uh, I will say that I will read any or a lot of what she publishes. I think she like has
Mm-hmm.
great introductory books to
Mm-hmm.
interesting topics.
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed this more than Cultish. I feel like Cultish, I don't remember a lot about.
Yeah,
I only remember the chapter on what is it called? Oh my god,
Scientology.
what?
I remember her talking a lot about Scientology and like multi-marketing schemes, multi-level
No, I
marketing.
remember the one about like that fitness thing.
Oh, it's like cycling, right?
Soul Cycle? No, it
Yeah.
wasn't Soul Cycle.
Was it
I
Soul
think she
Cycle?
was talking about CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And every time I see a CrossFit like studio around here, I'm like
Yeah.
getting far away from that.
Yeah. I always think of like her when I see like NFL fans,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
glimpse of the NFL. But I'm like
Mm.
I know I can be like that when I watch my favorite sports too. So, well, no, I really can't actually. But
Do you watch any sports?
I've been watching women's
I didn't understand the word of that.
yeah, I've been watching women's college basketball
Oh,
recently.
you already told me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like last night I was watching a game and I was like, "Come on!" I was getting so mad. I was
But
like,
what
"What is
team are
going
you
to
rooting
happen?"
for?
I can. So I was like, not giving. I'm not trying to give NFL fans too hard of a time right now.
But what team are you rooting for?
Well, I'm more so just looking for good games. I just want to
Okay.
see baller women play ball.
Why not
And
soccer?
oh, I did. I don't really pay attention to soccer unless it's the World Cup, like the Women's
Okay.
World Cup.
Yeah.
I did watch. They have a new documentary on Netflix
Oh.
about the U.S. soccer team, like this world recently with the World Cup,
Oh, really?
and kind of like why, like everyone was like they let us down, blah blah blah, because they lost. Yeah, they like spoiler, they put a lot more pressure on the women's team than they do on the men's team.
Yeah, but I feel like that's because like the men's team is probably like terrible in comparison with like other like soccer teams around the world.
Well, that's the thing, like that a lot of the players were saying on the women's team that it's like when the US team was kind of like at its height, like the women's team when they were like doing back-to-back World Cups or championships or whatever, like this is a point now where like the rest of the women's team of the world, they're all catching up. So like
Yeah.
you're really seeing like the best of the best of the best in every country.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was like no one really paid attention to it, but then once like the American team started dominating and like making money off of it, other countries were like, okay, we got to step up too. And now like America like is like mad that our team is no longer like dominating the way they once were. And it's like, well, now it's finally competitive. So like,
yeah.
it's not like the US sucks. Like they just got beat by a really good team, you know? So yes, I did watch that.
I don't watch sports.
Yeah.
I watch RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm gonna watch it now.
Miss You're gonna watch it now?
No, probably not now, but like maybe tomorrow.
Good. I'm probably gonna get some lunch and then eat and watch Drag Race.
Yeah, but yeah, let's finish this live show.
Okay, true.
We're going on for too long. We're just going over time. So our next live show will be in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna be starting Young Mungo this week. So
yeah, I have already started it. I think I'm on page like 60, so still the beginning. But yeah, we're gonna be discussing Young Mungo. I don't have the book here with me, so exactly. Young Mungo. That's our January book for 20 something book club. So we're gonna be discussing that in a couple of weeks. And yeah, we'll see you guys then.
Fun.